Hello everyone. Welcome back to the next episode of Kenspire Business Mantra. And this episode is going to be the fulcrum of a business or even the heart of the business. Yes, we are going to talk about cash flow management. So, I just mentioned cash flow is the heart of any business, right? So, every business needs an investment, and every investment needs appropriate return. And there's no point in this return on investment being only on paper, and it needs to be realized in absolute cash. That cash has to be in the system, very visible and accessible within a short notice by the management. Right? It is very clearly defined like that. Because when we say cash, there is also a cash equivalent, right? We all know about what is a cash equivalent because cash can be in multiple forms in a business. When the capital is invested in the form of cash, we buy material, we invest on machinery, we invest on building, we invest on the entire supply chain, we spend for overheads, we deploy people, so on and so forth. So there's so much of forms in which cash goes out. But the most important aspect is when we say cash reserve, it has to be clearly available and accessible in a short period of time for the management. So in this episode, we will be talking about how to approach this subject, critical subject of cash flow management. So if you look at a market point of view, any company which has got a strong cash reserve is much respected by the investor community. You analyze the balance sheet of many organizations which are listed companies, balance sheets are available for everyone to see. A company which is having enormous amount of cash reserve, the way they work, the way they reward the various stakeholders is extremely different. Whereas a cash starved company, the way they are struggling to even meet the ends, even to pay the interest on capital itself will be an issue, right? So one of the key goals for any businessman or an entrepreneur should be how quick I'm going to become cash positive, cash rich, and when I'm going to build a strong cash reserve in my system. Why a strong cash reserve is required? That will make sure that I can weather any uncertainty in the business, any vulnerable situation, any crisis situation, pandemic situation like what we have been experiencing in the last 2 years. During all these periods, a strong cash reserve is going to be handy for any organization to sustain such difficult times. So, friends, when you enter a business, don't just fix goals only on sales and profit. Fix goals as an entrepreneur for building cash reserve for your business. So, before we go further, let us discuss about the cash cycle. In the earlier episode, we spoke about the material cycle, right? Here again, something similar to that is the cash cycle. So the investment that comes into the business as cash, with which I buy material, like raw material, then it is put into production. It goes as work in progress, then converted into finished goods, which goes into my FG stores, and then it is sold and it turns into receivable from the customers, and from the customers I collect cash, and the cycle goes on and on and on. So this is the cash cycle, right? At the end of this episode, there will be a small graphic to explain this cycle for your easy reference. Now, this cash cycle, the entrepreneur needs to have full focus as to how fast one is able to rotate the cash. The profitability is going to be decided based on that. A simple formula you should look at it from your financial statements, from your P&L account and balance sheet is, look at the overall cash that is getting invested into the company, which is the capital that is invested into the company. And what is the number of times this capital is rotated in terms of your sales, right? Capital to sales ratio. There are companies where they invest X and they do 10x sales. There are companies who are struggling to do 2x sales. Extreme cases, I'm saying. The company who is able to do 10x capital to sales ratio, they will be obviously very profitable and definitely successful. Whereas a case of 2x or 3x kind of situation, then they'll be struggling, and such companies are overcapitalized and they are not productive, they are not efficient in turning around the cash cycle. Their cash is stuck somewhere. It would be stuck, it could be stuck in fixed assets, or where the capacity is created not properly utilized. The cash may be stuck in materials. Cash may be stuck with factory finished goods stores. Cash may be stuck with the customer as receivable. Long-term receivable issue could be there. These are all various diseases which could plague your organization. Ultimately, your cash cycle will get impacted, and it will have a very big impact on the long-term success of the organization. So how to proceed is, first and foremost, you should have a clear budgeting methodology for entire line items of your variable costs and your fixed costs, right? You should have clarity of all these items, which are your direct material, your direct labor, your factory overheads, then your fixed costs, your salary, rent, so many other things, interest costs, everything. Fix a clear budget, and the ability to fix a clear budget is very important to be coupled with the capability of the organization to restrict the outflow within the said budgets, right? Whether in terms of variable costs or the fixed costs. Second thing is preparing a cash flow forecast statement for the future. When we say future, it is a good practice to have an annual budget for your ensuing year, which should be supported with the annual cash flow forecast statement. And not just annual, every month your finance team should be in a position to give you forecast of your cash flow, and that needs to be monitored on a daily basis. It cannot be even monitored on a weekly basis by the finance department. A very effective finance team will monitor it on a daily basis so that you are able to achieve your goal. And then the review, daily review and monitoring and control over the various impacting dependency factors, the various cash cycle aspects which we discussed. Daily review and daily monitoring of these aspects are going to be very key in deciding the success of your cash flow management. Again, when you review, you would have fixed various policies and processes in running your organization. When you are reviewing your cash flow, always go back to your policies and processes and make course correction on those areas which is impacting your cash flow. For example, what are the various policies that could be impacting your cash flow? Your purchase policy, your payment policy, production planning, your credit policy, your experience of bad debts in the past, your overheads control process, gross margins in your business, etc., can impact your cash flow in a very big way. Look very deeply these policies and processes and how you can make it more efficient, and that is going to decide your better cash flow situation. To put it simply, Don't just look at your profit and loss account. Profit and loss account is one parameter, one measure of the business. Ultimately, what is the cash generated and what is the cash collected and what is remaining in my system as absolutely available, accessible cash. That is a very important parameter in which you should measure your business, right? So far we have seen the various guidelines which you should follow for an effective cash flow management, and go deeply into each and every line item of the cash flow cycle, so that you build efficiency everywhere, which will result in a very good cash flow situation, which is a very important success factor for your future investments and future expansion. Right? So, with that, we come to the end of this episode on cash flow management. Please add your queries to this email ID. And once again, we sincerely request you to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notification whenever a video is published by us. Till we meet next, friends, wish you all the best.